Welcome to this evening's event. My name's Ben Turney. I'm the CEO of Kavango Resources. There are a few names on here I recognise, people I know that have been following the story and I believe are shareholders. There's obviously no presentation this evening because it doesn't look like that function actually is possible on here. I don't think I can share any screenshots either, but I'm more than happy to take any questions from anybody who has them and talk about the company. Now, obviously, this evening, I can't talk about any price-sensitive information. We've obviously got a drill that's active at the moment that's got a lot of attention and a lot of people are quite excited about. I can certainly give a bit more context to what we've discovered so far, can talk about what our plans are moving forward, and I can walk you a bit through the business and some of the improvements that we've been making over the last 6 months. So does anybody at this point have any questions? I'm not sure how you ask questions, if I'm honest. Let's see. Is there a function, if anyone's listening, can you put your hand up? So Pete Alloway, I can see you there. You're in here. Is there any way you can sort of come up on stage and ask any questions? I think this is new to everybody. I'm not sure if everyone knows quite how it works yet. I've used the Clubhouse facility before, and that had a way that people could actually ask questions. But at this stage, it doesn't look like you can. Oh, hang on, I'm turning on captions. No, that's just me. That's me speaking. Here we go. We've got some requests finally. So we've got Paul Appleton. Hi there, Paul. How are you doing? Paul, you've got your mic off by the looks of it. You have to turn your mic. There you go. Hi there, Paul. How are you?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. How are you?
Excellent. Thanks for stepping up and being the first person to ask a question this evening. So it looks like your mic's off again. So far away, Paul. What can I answer?
How are you getting on? It all seems very interesting this week with the two RNSs. How is drill? Is it A22?
Yep. So it's the second hole in target area A. In all honesty, it's taken a bit of an unexpected turn. Obviously, very positive so far. We originally, as you know, were targeting a gabbroic keel for the Karoo age gabbros. When we got through the Karoo was a bit shallower than we expect, so we're going to come back and revisit our model on that. And what we wanted to do was to understand what the source of the magnetic anomaly underneath the Karoo was. What we've seen further up in the hole suggested that wasn't the magnetic anomaly, but you can very clearly see on some of the imagery that I shared in presentations previously, which we'll be putting up on the Twitter feed later on today. You can very clearly see that there was a magnetic anomaly that's been known about for quite a long time. Now, we thought that this was a Proterozoic, and we actually had a model that suggested that this was at 650 meters. Part of the reason that we didn't publish that model is we didn't think it was correct. The Proterozoic in the region has been thought to be much deeper than that, sort of deeper, sort of up to sort of 800-900 meters before first contact. So we did have a model suggesting it was at 650, and Hilary Gunn actually called it pretty much on the nose. He said that we would encounter it at 650, and we encountered it at 651. So just over a week ago, we had quite an animated board discussion to decide what we were going to do sort of at the end of the hole. Once we got through the Karoo, and we ended up unanimously deciding to push on to the Proterozoic, because the advice that we received from various geophysicist consultants who've done work for the company was that whatever we did, we had to see the source of the magnetics, because that data that we would get would help us augment our future geophysical models. So that was the original decision to push to the Proterozoic. Obviously, we've been extremely pleasantly surprised by what we've encountered so far. It's still early days, so we can't say anything definitive at this stage about what we've seen, but the signs are quite encouraging for this proof of concept hole to prove up the KSZ system. So yeah, the last week's been very exciting. Obviously, sort of an unexpected twist in exploration. And no matter what anybody says about all the great work that they can do in advance of actually sticking the drill bit in the ground, ultimately luck does pretty much always play a role, and it appears that so far we're looking like we've been quite lucky.
All seems good then.
Well, we hope so. We've got the assay testing still to come. So the cores are currently being cut at the moment. We've got obviously a lot of rock that we need to work our way through. That does take time. It's a fairly laborious task. We've been shipping the cores from the drill site to our Shani headquarters where they're currently being cut. We then need to decide on thin sections, because obviously assay testing can be quite expensive. So we've got some very interesting zones that we threw out as we saw on Friday. I don't think the market's really fully understood the significance of the announcements yet, because we've kept them very, very technical at this stage until we've got sort of more definitive results. Once we've got more definitive results, we'll be able to explain and much more of the context of what we're actually seeing. But we're going to have to be fairly selective about what we do send off for assay testing. But so far, there's certainly a lot for us to go and look at. Do you have any other questions? Go on, fire away.
I had a question on hole one.
Sure.
You're not doing TDEM, are you, on hole one? Because you had to fill the cavity. You had the cavity. You had the still cavity, didn't you? So you couldn't use the TDEM. Is that right? But you knew there was an anomaly at Was it 350?
About 370, we think. Yeah. So look, I know that we've come in for a bit of criticism on the inability to do TDEM, but I think what people really need to understand is that the main goal here was to get the core from throughout the hole. Now the drilling conditions that we've experienced in both holes further up, so sort of shallower depths, they have been pretty difficult so far. We've gone through what are called the Karoo sediments. These are sort of a mixture of different types of rocks and clays and sort of amalgamations of sort of sandy type materials as well. So our partner Equiling in Mindea, I mean, these guys are fantastic. I think I'm right in saying they're one of the best drilling outfits in Southern Africa. I mean, they really are, superb professionals. So our priority was to get the core samples. Now, unfortunately, because of the hole conditions that we experienced in both holes shallower up, what that meant was that we had to use steel casing to keep the holes open, so that we could get to the bottom successfully. So we reduced the engineering risk. Unfortunately, the nature of the rocks and the sort of formations we went through, we've experienced a bit of closing. So when we put the steel casing in, we haven't actually been able to retrieve it out of the hole. So that meant the steel itself acts as a barrier for the TDEM signal. So it meant, unfortunately, we weren't able to do TDEM on the A conductor. So at the moment, we don't know what that is. That's certainly something for us to look at in the future. But moving forward, we've been looking at other engineering solutions that we can adopt for future holes that we drill. Now that we know that the extent of this problem, and this is something that we need to be aware of, the drillers and our guys on the ground have been working very closely together to figure out sort of ways that they can approach this in future so that this doesn't happen. And two options that we're looking at are, first of all, to drill a much wider diameter hole at the beginning. Now, this is more expensive for the first 200 meters. But what we can do is we can put I want to say plastic, that's the wrong word. We can put my mind's gone blank. Not like canvas, what is the word? Sorry, I want to make sure I say this accurately. Call it plastic for the moment, not plastic, but a plastic-like material as a sleeve that will go down the hole, and then we can obviously put the HQ, so the HQ steel casing down that, and our expectation is that because effectively it will have this wrapper around it, we think we'll be able to retrieve the steel casing the second time. The other alternative that we're looking at is to do TDEM on our way down. So in other words, we'll do sort of individual sections of TDEM surveys as we go down the hole, and then case the hole off sort of every 50 to 100 meters. Now, the only problem with that, of course, is the availability of the equipment. Spectral, our partners with this technology, have been fantastic with us, but obviously, if we were to follow this approach, it would mean that they'd need to leave their downhole EM equipment with us, and that can be very expensive. Now, we are considering that as an option for one of the next holes that we drill, which of course is the B conductor. That's the one with 8,200 Siemens. That's really sort of the biggest target that we're going for. We might well find that it would be worth investing in that just so that we can be certain that the TDEM will work. Are you still with us, Paul?
Yeah, I'm still here.
So sorry, has that answered your question?
Yes. The only one question I had was that you went down to 350, the metal casing, but I think on one of the RNSs, you said you found an anomaly about 25 meters higher.
Yeah, so the casing itself, I should have the numbers in front of me, but so you need to refer to the RNS. Basically, the casing went about, as you say, about 20 meters below where the anomaly was. So I think there was actually a typo in that RNS where we used the word below rather above. So what actually happened was that the casing went down from memory to about 390 meters, and spectral estimates now that the TDEM anomaly is at around about 370. So at this stage, I mean, look, it would have been a nice to have, certainly. But with what we're now seeing in the second hole in particular, I mean, this whole play is opening up in a way that we didn't expect. And obviously, we're now moving on to area B, which is, of course, the main sort of primary exploration in the Karoo.
Yeah. So how do you know it was the anomaly was 35 meters higher?
Well, that's the thing. We don't at the moment. It's a best guess from spectral based on what we've seen in the lithology and stratigraphy. So in other words, what we've seen from the geology going down, but until we could actually do the TDEM survey, we can't say for certain what the source was. So I know that's being a little bit vague at the moment. But what I don't want to do is give sort of half information that might prove to be misleading. So until we can say definitively what that was, when we are going to look to see what we can do about potentially getting this casing out of the hole. If we come to drill a third this area, which is certainly possible after what's happened with the current hole, then we'll potentially look at those two engineering solutions I talked about a little earlier on. So either drilling wider diameter and using sort of a plastic sleeve down to about 200 meters, or doing downhole EM sort of in sections as we work our way through.
Okay. So when what would you do now? Would you drill a third hole down after you finished going down to 1,000 meters on this second one?
Good question. So the plan remains exactly as announced. So that's something I can certainly talk about. So we are going to mobilise up to target area B as previously announced. We've got more than enough to work with in this hole in terms of assay testing and further analysis. I mean, it's obviously been a geological hole. It's going to end up being one of the deepest holes ever drilled in the KSZ. We've already retrieved the largest amount of Proterozoic gabbro that anyone has before. And from visual inspections, and I've got to emphasise it's visual inspections at this stage, what we're looking at is very interesting, as you can see on our Twitter feed, where obviously we've put photos out of some of what we've seen so far.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I'm going to let everybody else ask questions now.
Brilliant. Well, Paul, thanks very much for stepping up. Very brave. So, anybody else? Do we have any other requests? How does that come up? So I think there's a request. There will be a request button somewhere. I've never used this facility before, so I'm afraid I can't actually direct you to it. So I think if anyone has a question, could you just sort of stick your hand up?
I think on the left-hand side, I saw a request, as you said, Ben, and then it took me to another screen. Then it says enable access to microphone.
Oh, Paul, brilliant, excellent. You're more of an expert in this than I am, definitely. So as Paul has just said, apparently on the left-hand side, there's a button which says enables you to make a request. So does anybody have any other questions at this stage? It looks like, Paul, otherwise it's going to be just you and me talking the way this is going. I'll be asking you questions in a minute.
I'm not the best expert.
Okay. So hang on, I'm not missing anything, am I? Oh, Zaf, here we go. I just saw Zaf wants to speak. How can I let Zaf in? Oh, sorry about this, everybody. I'm just figuring this out as we speak. How do I get my requests? Here we go, request one. Here we go, Zaf. Excellent. Hi there, Zaf. Welcome on board. I think you're on mute at the moment, Zaf. There you go. Hi, Zaf. How are you? Can you hear us, Zaf? Paul, are you still there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, we can hear you now, Zaf. Yeah, there you go. Hi, Zaf.
Okay. Good evening, gents and ladies, if there are any.
Good evening.
So my question is a little bit of a sideboard question. My thing is that as Kay has said, has become so much more interesting now, as we thought it would be, it's going to take up far more time than we probably expected it to take up. Now, you have quite rightly said that you're going to concentrate on the KSZ first and then mobilize the rigs to the KCB.
Mm-hmm.
I know we don't have the environmentals in yet from the KCB, but as in when we do, is there a plan to maybe attack on two fronts? Otherwise, KCB and my other venture, Power Metals, is going to be left 6 months or more down the line. So that's my question.
Yeah, it's a very good question, Zaf. So, look, as with any plan, the first thing that happens when you can't try and put it in is the plan goes out the window. Especially when dealing with sort of complicated ventures like this. The KCB is a huge priority for us. Unfortunately, Botswana got quite badly hit by COVID a few months ago. This was sort of quite widely publicised. Now, our EMP has taken longer to get awarded than we hoped. There's been a bit of backlog getting these through, but from what we've been understand verbally, it really should be very soon. So this is all in the public domain. In terms of sort of our operational plans, yeah, I mean, look, we've hit something now in the KSZ that you quite rightly say is going to take up a lot of our internal resource. Now, we have been taking steps in Botswana to increase our team and make quite a lot of improvements to our operations. And at the moment, I think that also the original plan was that we would take this rig up to the KCB to go and start drilling immediately. As things stand today, I think we are going to have to start to look at employing a second rig to go and drill up at the KCB. Now, as we said, this current rig is a diamond rig, so it's not a multi-purpose rig. We always knew that, but our plan was to go and drill some diamond holes up at the KCB, because we've obviously got some targets that we want to go investigate more thoroughly, but we also want to understand the underlying geology as well. So you can only really do that with core samples from diamond drilling. What we're thinking about at the moment, and this is just an operational decision, so nothing firm has been made, so I think I'm quite comfortable speaking about this. We're looking at potentially getting a multi-purpose rig up to the KCB to do both diamond and some RC drilling. Now, this is also in the public domain, and it's no secret that Mindea are doing drilling on behalf of Power Metals. They're currently in the process. I'm not sure if they've mobilised yet, but they are sort of planning to go and drill up at the Tati Greenstone project. So there are plans underway there. And what we're considering is, I spoke to one of the guys, Mark at Mindeo and Equity Drilling a few days ago, and what we sort of were kicking the idea around as well, rather than use the drill that's in the KSZ and mobilise that up to the KCB, what if we just let Power get their drill out the way at Tati, which again is all publicly announced, so talk about that, and then potentially we could take that rig up to the KCB. Now the advantage is that drill can do sort of the quicker and cheaper drilling as well. So where we could potentially get the diamond holes from the KCB and understand more about the geology, we could also cover more ground as well by being able to do RC drilling as well. So at the moment, nothing is fixed. These are all just ideas that we're kicking around, but the KCB is definitely a big priority for us. And as you quite rightly said, we are a small company. We've got limited resources available and we're also punching above our weight as well, just to make things a bit easier. But we have to be flexible as well. And so at the moment, I know that I've seen speculation out there saying, oh, well, this is going to mean delays for the KCB. I mean, we're going to do everything in our power that doesn't happen. And apart from anything else, being as well funded as we are now, we have options of us like Kavango's never had before. So there's a lot of ground for us to cover, a lot of work for us to do, and we'll make a further announcement, once we've actually made some definitive decisions.
Sounds like a plan. Perfect. Thank you, Ben.
You're welcome. Thank you. So I can see Zach, just before I move on to anyone else, I see we've got someone else who wants to join us and ask a question. Do you have anything else you'd like to ask at this point?
Not for now. Thank you much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So we've got someone called Kadena F. Hi. Are you with us? I think your phone is off. That's obviously not well, maybe it is your real name. I don't know. Kadena?
Yeah. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hi. Welcome.
Yes. Sizable project is around your land area. If I recall correctly, Dan fired that, and I just wanted to know what other project from others around that neighborhood.
Sure. So up in the Kalahari Copper Belt, you've got Sandfire Resources, which is an Australian listed company, took over MOD Resources and Metal Tiger, which UK investors will know all about. And you also have a company called Cooper Canyon, which is a privately owned North American company that has a number of discoveries that they're turning into mines. Now, those are up in the northeastern section of the Copper Belt in Botswana. In the Kalahari Suture Zone, there isn't anybody. This is what I think is one of Kavango's greatest strengths. Thanks to the work of Mike Moles and Hilary Gumbo, our founders, they've pretty much stored the entire or the available area within the Kalahari Suture Zone. Our land is divided in the middle. So we have the northern section, which is where we're drilling at the moment, and we secured the southern section earlier this year. And pretty much in between that, there's a national park, which puts exploration pretty much out of reach. So in the KSZ, we are the only people there. And if this drill does turn out to be successful, I mean, that could well prove to be one of Kavango's biggest strengths.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So we've got someone called NCL Seller joining us. This is definitely not your name. So hi there. Welcome. I think you're on mute at the moment. Oh, there you go. Hi.
Hi, Ben. Can we get an update on Kanye? So on Company's House, you've got Mike Foster, who resigned, replaced by Mario Visconti.
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So, okay. So Mario is an old contact of mine from my days in Manchester. He's worked for me on a number of different things over the years. I've known Mario a long time. So Mario is a reporting accountant, and we brought him into to Kavango as part of the handover from when Chuck Forrest left. So Mario's been working very closely with our budgeting and our internal reporting processes that did need a little bit of love and a bit of improvement. Mike Foster is obviously getting on a bit. I probably should have said that a little bit more. He will not appreciate me saying that, but he's 71 years old now, so he's getting towards the end of his career, and he's obviously transitioned into a non-exec role within Kavango and the role within Kanye Resources. It's obviously a privately held joint venture between us and with Power Metals. So Mario's, we needed sort of a second director in there because getting a vehicle like this set up, there's just quite a lot of work that's involved. And if, with Michael and I being the only, it basically meant that I was having to do a lot of the running on this. By bringing Mario in, who's obviously very experienced in corporate matters, he's able to do a lot of things which frees me up to do sort of the more value-added work that I do with Kavango. Now, in terms of what we're going to do with Kanye, we do need to provide an update on this. So I need to be a little sort of careful what I say. This is an area I know that has been speculation about. But our aim is that when we announce the environmental management plan, we're going to do an operational update on the KCB, and we'll talk about what the next steps are with Kanye and what our plans are around that. So that's something we will be putting out in an RNS in the not too distant future.
Okay, is the spin-off still on the cards?
It's on the cards, definitely. But yeah, as things stand, we like the look of the project, and I'll answer more, I think, sort of in the RNS, if that's okay. But yeah, I mean, look, everything is on the cards. It's an early stage startup venture with a lot of encouraging signs, and what we will ultimately be guided by is what we feel is best for both our sets of shareholders, and of course we have to hear what Power Metal says as well for their shareholders too.
Okay, thanks for that. Just one more question on Kanye. What's the rationale behind? Or maybe it's not Kanye related, but what was the rationale behind exercising the warrants in POW?
Oh, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, so we had replacement warrants at 5, so they were due for expiry in September. So we exercised the warrants. It also helps us with a bit of risk management as well. We have all of those placing funds that we got back in August. We obviously have a number of bank accounts we can sort of spread money around, both sort of in the UK and in Botswana. But what it also means that we don't have a current asset that's sitting on our balance sheet in the form of stock as well. So we exercised the warrants. It's obviously a current asset for us that we can tap into sort of as and when we need. But it also meant we got those replacement warrants as well.
But I would have thought 100k in the bank to serve any future expansion at the Kalahari Super Zone would have been better in the eyes of some shareholders.
In what way?
Cash in bank, ready to deploy on future drills.
Well, it's to all intents and purposes, it is still cash in bank. I mean, it's obviously it's in stock form, but it's freely tradable. It's not subject to any sort of lock-in or anything like that.
Fair enough. Okay. Final question. I don't want to hog the session, but will Mike Moles be wheeled out, so to speak, to give some updates?
Yeah, we will be getting Mike out soon. And what we're also going to do is we've got a number of other senior management hires within the business. So we've significantly improved Kavango's technical competencies and abilities. You'll see the first of those video interviews will be coming out probably tomorrow, maybe Tuesday, with one of the new guys we brought in. I'll wait until sort of that comes out, and you'll see that we've got some pretty, some very strong talent involved in the company now. So yes, Mike will definitely be out sort of in the not too distant future. He's obviously been extremely busy over the last week, just looking at all these photos that we have of this core. There's a lot of it to look through. But yeah, we definitely will be getting Mike out in the not too distant future, together with the new guys that we've taken on within the company.
Okay, thanks, Ben.
Lovely, you're welcome. So is there anyone else who'd like to ask any questions? It's actually gone surprisingly well so far. We've done half an hour, had some excellent questions. We've got about 40 people listening still. So is there anything else that anyone would like to ask about the company at this stage? I see I've got another request coming through. This is Richard Braddon. Richard, hi there, how are you doing? You're on mute at the moment. Yeah, we can hear you now, Richard. Hi, welcome.
Ben, just first of all, I was listening on desktop and I couldn't find a function on there for how to send a request, so I had to download the app. Just for anyone else who's listening,
thank you.
Who might have a similar problem.
Well, we're all new to this, so I'll just sort of repeat that. So if anybody's listening to this on desktop, it sounds like it's difficult to find the request function. You need to download the app if anyone has any questions. Thanks for that, Richard.
Okay.
So Richard, go on, fire away. What can I ask for you?
Yeah, when you did an interview with Shares Magazine, it might have been a few months ago, you showed a slide of C1, and you mentioned that there were 4 further keels to explore locally. And that image really struck me because it looks like there's a lot of potential targets. Yeah,
so I mean, we do have a lot of potential targets, and what we now, of course, have is the Proterozoic as well. We need to do is we need to get this core data up, and one of the things that we are able to do at the moment is our geophysicists have been able to test a number of the assumptions that they made about what might actually be underground and sort of causing the various responses. There's going to be quite a lot of work on this over the next couple of months. We've engaged Mira Geosciences to do a complete update of the models on based on what we've discovered so far. We've obviously got to go and drill target area B further to the north. What we're going to look to do then, Richard, is release a completely updated model, both of the Karoo and also of the Proterozoic. So in terms of that, the number of exploration targets across the region, yeah, I mean, we've got dozens potentially, and that's just in the northern section. Our work in the southern section, we've made a little bit of progress down there, but we are just waiting to see sort of what we actually learn from what we're doing at the moment before we start to go and look. But I mean, if you think about the size of this system, as everyone knows, the Kalahari Suture Zone is 450 kilometres long. We've got about getting on for 8,000 square kilometres to cover. In fact, I think it might even be a bit more than that now. So we've got a huge amount of ground, highly prospective of ground to cover, all of which is completely obscured from view. So all of this is under the Kalahari cover. So historic exploration hasn't happened in this region. I mean, it really is a true sort of virgin greenfield opportunity. And if we can find ways of making this remote sensing technology work and delineate clear drill targets, then I mean, there's a huge potential still to go out in this project.
And just to follow up, is there anything that you've seen so far that might make you want to alter your plans for doing TDEM on those keels?
On those kills in particular, well, yeah, simple answer to that is yes, absolutely. I mean, the fact that our initial model for the Proterozoic, looks like actually it could work out. This prediction of Hillary's that it'd be at 650 meters. We've got some imagery that we'll be releasing, I think, once we finish the drill. So we'll put that out. But yeah, I mean, of course, it's exploration, and the drill bit is the truth detector. So inevitably things will change. In terms of sort of further exploration in those keels and doing TDEM surveys over them. That's certainly part of the plan as things stand today, but we are going to wait until we've drilled target area B. So we need to do a bit of we need to think about sort of the next phase of our strategy here and the next generation. We're very confident in the TDEM technology. TDEM technology has proven itself to be able to identify conductors quite accurately. So we're sure it's one of the right solutions. One of the limitations on it, however, is its range. What we don't know yet is whether or not the TDEM will be able to get us into the Proterozoic. And so what we're looking at is there's some other technology that's out there which might enable us to do surveys that would enable us to test both the Karoo and the Proterozoic at the same time. So that's one sort of possible variation on the plan. But again, this is going to be part of our review over the next couple of months as we figure out exactly what the best next steps forward are.
Okay, so do you think at the moment the Proterozoic is kind of taking precedence?
Well, too early to, as things stand today, of course, the answer is yes, but we're still going to go and drill target area B next. I mean, just simply by the nature of these rocks that we found in the Proterozoic so far, I mean, it's a very, very interesting development. We now have to, we're going to have to sort of take stock at the end of this campaign. But what you've got to remember as well is that this target area A and target area C, they're on this corridor, what we think is a sort of geological corridor. Target area B is in a completely separate, distinct geological setting. So what we need to do is we need to go and drill up at B next, and then take stock of all the data that we've gathered, and then figure out what the next steps are.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Anything else before I invite anyone else in? We've got Matt's waiting in the lobby.
No, that's fine. Go ahead. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Richard. Hi there, Matt. Welcome. You need to turn your speaker. Yeah, there you go. Hi there, Matt.
A sort of a less technical question. So obviously, Kavango is really well placed in the KSZ. In fact, the only company, as you just mentioned now, with the kind of access that you do. And so I wondered, it's a potentially transformational project, both for, the company, but also for Botswana. And I guess there's a kind of pressure that comes with being the only company that has this kind of access, but also, the possibility of being part of something quite transformational. So I wondered if you wanted to talk a little bit about kind of support from the Botswanan government or kind of engagement with them, and whether this is something that's ongoing, what kind of support there's, so something more in the background, if you wouldn't mind. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Now, there's one that I can't talk about yet because it is something we're going to be announcing very soon. But one of the hires that we've made in the last 6 weeks will sort of emphasise the investment that we're putting into the sector in Botswana. We're very, very serious about becoming major players in the country. We want to do everything we can to help the Botswanans unlock their natural mineral wealth. I tweeted out, I think about a month or so ago, I actually gave a presentation to the director of the Ministry of Mines. It went very well. We've got a lot of support. We feel that they're very interested in what we're doing. I think there's perhaps been a little bit of skepticism about the KSZ. The KSZ's obviously been known about for a long time. There has been exploration there, which hasn't yielded much so far. It's obviously only been 6 days since we hit these rocks in the Proterozoic, and we're obviously very much focused on getting this drill bit down to 1,000 meters. But I fully expect that once we've got some more definitive information to report back, that this will start to cause a lot more interest in sort of what's happening within the KSZ. But certainly from a support point of view, I mean, Botswana is already known as being a fantastic country to operate in. It's got a very sort of well-established legislative system. It's a very honest country. It's got great infrastructure. The people there are wonderful as well. It has a real mining heritage. So I mean, I don't think there are really many places better in Africa for a company like ours to operate in. And if we can help introduce new technology and new methods to unlock some of these deposits that are underneath the Kalahari cover, then that could be something that could be transformational for the Botswana economy. So yeah, we certainly feel very ambitious about it. It's of course early days, so I'm obviously sort of laying out quite a grand vision here, but we're doing everything we can to make ourselves become a serious presence and also a serious investor in Botswana.
Thanks. That's really helpful and really lovely to hear. So I like the fact that Kavango is thinking longer term and not the idea is not to sort of get bought out as soon as possible. Obviously, there's not much you can say on that. But thanks very much. That's me done.
Well, actually, Matt, I will say something to that actually, because I'm quite happy to talk about our long-term vision. Yeah, we are looking at becoming a serious minerals exploration business in Botswana. There's a huge amount of potential in the country. Again, going back to this whole business over the Kalahari cover, and sort of we're not just simply in this simply to come and sort of enrich ourselves and then just bugger off as quickly as we can. We do want to become a serious presence in the country, and that's going to be reflected, as you'll see, in some of the moves that we've made recently, which we'll be putting an announcement out on in the very near future.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, so we've got someone called Harry who wants to join us. Hi there, Harry. You need to turn your mic on. Hi, Harry, are you with us? Can't hear you yet, Harry.
Hi, Ben. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Hi there, Harry. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you very much. First of all, great job, great company, awesome opportunity. I appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing. I've noticed trading volume in the U.S. There's a big discrepancy between volume on U.S. exchanges versus the U.K. and some price disparity there. Is there any strategy to get or any thoughts or talk about? And again, I am new to investing in this field, so please pardon me if this is a bit of a juvenile question. Are there any plans to get more exposure in the US?
So Harry, it's an excellent question. Now, this is something I was actually hoping someone would ask me about, and I promise that you're not a plant. So I have one of my private companies is called Dynamic Investor Relations. So I've got a background in IR, and over the last few years, the company that I built up privately has specialized in North American marketing campaigns. So I've actually got quite a lot of experience of working in both the US and Canadian markets over the last few years. And one of the things it's always me, I think sort of British attitude towards listing in the US and in Canada are a little bit behind the times. I don't think sort of people over here in the London market quite realise the extent to which sort of things have moved on in the US. Now, as it happens, and this is all in the public domain, for a UK company to get an OTC listing, it's actually a fairly straightforward process. It's not that expensive. But I think what happens is a lot of the UK companies that do go and list over on the OTC, what they don't do is don't invest sufficiently or in the right way in how they market themselves and present themselves, in particular to American investors. And as you all know, it's a hyper competitive marketplace. It's a much more liquid marketplace with much greater participation from the population in stock investing. And it's also a much more sophisticated investor base as well. So, I mean, one of the things, I'm certainly keen that we at Kavango look at in the future is a possible US listing. And if we do that we go and do it in the right way. We don't sort of turn up on the other side of the Atlantic with a sort of British attitudes towards IR and PR, that if we do go and do it, we'll go and do it properly, which will mean sort of, we'll do it in the way that sort of good, decent mining exploration companies do in the US. So at the moment, we do have a listing over there, but that was not something that the company set up. One of the sort of the quirks of the OTC market, as I'm sure you're probably aware, is that regulated market participants can apply for a form of listing on behalf of a foreign listed issuer, such as Kavango. So the OTC listing that we do have in the US, it is legitimate. We've been in touch with the OTC about that, and we've confirmed it's a completely legitimate, bona fide listing. It's just not one that the company has done directly, but it's certainly something that we will consider in future.
Ben, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anything else, Harry, before I bring in Kadena again?
No, I'm done. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you for your question. Hi, so Kadena, have I pronounced that correctly? Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, yeah. So you have another question, please, fire away.
Yes, well, it was just a follow-up to the previous speaker about the OTC in the US. I think that's something that you should look into. I had to broker by phone in order to get a trade in, and that took several time and this and that. But like you said, you're looking into it, so I recommend that gets done. There's many small retail that are opening up their eyes, especially to the copper market. There's a lot of stocks in the Canada exchanges. But I just thought I second that, and it's something that would be interesting, especially with the macroeconomic on copper coming up in the future. Thank you.
And not to mention my British accent. I hope that would play quite well over there.
Thank you again.
Okay, that joke didn't land back. Never mind. All right, yeah, no, thank you for the comments. No, look, it's something that we're definitely very interested in. As I say, what I've experienced over the last couple of years, with the campaigns that I've worked on, and I can see that if these things are done in the right way, the liquidity and the interest that can generate in a stock, it's certainly an exciting opportunity for a company like ours. As far as I'm aware, no one in the small cap space in Britain has even attempted anything like this. So yeah, I think it's certainly something that we'll be looking at. So we've been going now for about 40 minutes. Does anyone else have any questions?
Ben, can I just sneak a quick question in there?
Yeah, you can, please, far away.
When future funds are acquired, given obviously what we all expect or hope to happen, how can the ordinary private investor get invited or get involved?
That's an excellent question. So as some people will be aware, I tried to run a business called the Tethers app, which unfortunately didn't see. There are a number of sort of flaws behind that model, which just I couldn't overcome. But I did learn a lot about this while I was working on that. Now I've got some ideas around what we can do to ensure sort of participation in future. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the current shareholders in the business, they are the owners of the business, and they should absolutely have the opportunity to follow their money. Of course, working in the environment that we do, placings in particular can be very difficult. And I mean, this is part of the reason that the two placings that we've done over the last year, we've done both of them over the weekend. First Equity and SI Capital have been brilliant for us, great brokers, sort of working the weekend to get the deals done, because unfortunately there are some less than, how to put it, less than, I don't know, I probably shouldn't say anything more, but it's a difficult environment for us to work in.
It's bent over the people with the money.
Yeah, well, look, your word, I won't disagree with you, put it that way. So yeah, look, I've got some ideas about what we can do to ensure sort of participation from people. I mean, obviously, the sort of thing you have to handle sort of quite sensitively, because as soon as you start talking about placings, it can be quite an emotive subject. And, one of the things I'm conscious of is that, for now, we've just got to focus on what we're doing. We've got plenty of cash in the bank and working capital. Our working capital position is very strong. We're fully funded well into next year for all of our drill plans. The current drill campaign is likely to come in under budget as well because of the nature of the equity deal that I negotiated with Mindea and Equity Drilling. But I think when we've got a bit of quiet time, when things are sort of settled down a bit, at that point I'll be thinking about sort of, well, what are our plans to make sure that we can ensure our shareholders get a fair bite of the cherry as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So does anybody else have any questions at this point? I mean, I think so far 45 minutes, this has been really good. I appreciate all the questions from everybody. This has actually gone much better than I hoped. Does anyone who's still sort of on the panel or speaker have any further questions at this point?
Ben, quick question.
Sure, far away.
Do you think sometimes when you release an RNS that you're waiting for this share price to go up or down, depending on what words you actually use in it?
What do you mean, sorry?
So some, like the last one, when you drilled the first hole, the share price plummeted, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm beyond like predicting price moves, because I've been in this market now for 12 years. I've been through 3 full cycles, and there have been announcements that I've seen which I thought would be slam dunk, and you just expect the share price to double or treble and nothing happens. And then equally, really sort of inane, bland RNSs that have lit a fire under a stock price. So it's quite difficult to predict. Although what I've got to say is that I was very surprised at the market reaction to that first announcement. I couldn't help but feel that quite a lot of people in the market out there got gamed by the market makers. Market makers obviously have a lot of power in this space. They can do a lot of the company's prices. And of course, a price that drops suddenly, that can sort of cause others to panic and can cause them to sell. I think the investment case for Kavango at this level is actually pretty clear. It's a binary outcome. We're either going to make major mineral discoveries with the budget that we have available to us, or we're not. So I think by sort of getting shaken out at that stage, for me, it just didn't really make any sense, because obviously it was just far too premature. And of course, if you look at now what's happened with this second hole, I mean, this has surprised even us. And, we didn't expect to hit these rocks that we've hit so far. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely, it was a bit of a kick in the teeth, but equally then you've got to just sort of pick yourself up and get on with the day job. And obviously what we're all now really excited about is what's coming in target area B. We really cannot wait to drill this 8,200 Siemens target. That one is very, very encouraging. Did that answer your question? You still with us? Hi. Okay, so unless there's anyone else, oh, sure. Yes, hi, far away.
Okay, that's again. Are we sharing any information, or are we being guided by any majors in any way?
Right, so that's obviously that's a difficult question. We've said in the past we have had conversations, and I've been in meetings. At this stage, I mean, I think that's the sort of thing that we would need to put out into an RNS. As things stand today, we're keeping all of our data in-house until we've got the assay test and the assay results. our guys need to see that first. So the exploration method that we're following is to keep sort of strict confidence for now. So as things stand today, it is with Kavango. In terms of sort of, opening up data rooms or anything like that, I think that's the sort of thing that we would need to put an announcement out about. But as things stand today, it's our guys who are going to be conducting the analysis, putting together a firm report, and then at that point we'll look to open it up to whoever's interested, any of the parties we've spoken with in the past, because we think we've got some very interesting stuff to show them.
I think there's probably going to be a stampede. So are you going to give preference to somebody or a company that you've been speaking to already, or will it be open house?
It'll be open house. I mean, I think it's fair. I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything price sensitive here by saying that that's the sort of thing would be open house. We're not going to sort of do anybody any favours or do anything preferential. We have to do what's best for our shareholders and the company.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Sorry, Ben.
Fire away.
Sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought there was a tweet put out by yourself on your handle or on Kavango's that there was a data room open.
Well, we have a data room that we've set up. So we brought in a consultant. It was actually one of the first people I brought into the company, because when I first arrived, the data room wasn't in the best of shape. So this was back in February. So we have a very thoroughly put together, well-constructed data room that we have for internal purposes. But no, we haven't. We've never said that we put anything out to anyone else just yet. But it's there. It's ready to go. We now need to fill it up with the information that we get from this drill.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome. So does anyone else have any further questions? There are no more requests at the moment. Unless any of our current panel have any further questions? No? Good. All right then. Well, look, thank you very much for joining me this evening. This was a bit of an experiment. I just came. Oh no, hang on. We have one. Michael Crossan. Michael, here we go. Hi, Michael. Welcome. You need to put your there you go. Your speakers on. Hi, Michael.
Ben, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. I think I missed maybe the first 10 minutes. So forgive me if I talk about anything you've gone over already.
No problem at all. Fire away.
Right. Just going over the original plan here was to use the other licenses like DITAO and the KCB, basically to fluff them up and sell them off to fund the KSZ. Is that still the plan?
Yeah, so you put a tweet out about the other day. I'm glad you've asked the question, because I must admit I've been in Kavango since 2018, and it's not something I'm too familiar with. When do you think that was put out by the company?
Mike Moles discussed this in the interview.
Oh, did he? When was that? When was that?
Oh, Ben, I'm here a long time. There's been a lot of alcohol and a lot of videos under the bridge. You know.
Well, I mean, obviously, sort of with me coming into the company with our chairman David Smith, I mean, that really did sort of herald the beginning of a new era for Kavango. In terms of sort of the plans, obviously plans always change, but in terms of where we are today, obviously Kavango is now in the strongest financial position it's ever been in. I think Michael and Mike, they'll put their hands up and they'll be quite candid about this and admit that, the first couple of years that this was a listed company, they didn't do such a good job on their own in terms of sort of the promotion, getting investor interest, and above all, raising money. They really did struggle to raise any funds. Now, obviously, over the last 12 months, we've done two £2 million placings, and we've brought in about another £500,000 worth of warrant conversions. So, Kavango now, I mean, from when I first joined the company, it's got double in cash what the market cap originally was back in April 2020. So, of course, more money gives us, more options in terms of what we can do. Now, one of the things that I'm very keen is that we don't sell any of our assets too quickly. So I think the idea of sort of, as you put it, like fluffing up something like DITAO or the KCB, then to flip that on to fund exploration, that might well happen. I mean, if we get some really encouraging results, and if we get a out of this world offer for one of the projects, which in the copper belt, who knows what might happen up there? Anything is possible. Then of course that's something we would look at. But as things stand now, our focus is on making discoveries by drilling. So on all four of our projects, we think we're in with a good shot. And then we'll obviously have to see sort of how we develop the business. But I think anything that sort of might have been said before I joined in terms of the plans, well, the plans inevitably do change as the company's circumstances change.
Yeah, I think that the original plan, the idea behind that original plan was to maintain value for shareholders. Because where we are now with the Protezoic, deeper is dearer.
Could I just actually speak? Can I speak to that quickly? Because this is, I was hoping someone would ask about this. So there does seem to be a bit of a misconception out there, which possibly I've fueled a bit, and I want to just clarify on something. When I've talked about the Protezoic being too deep previously, that's not too deep in terms of economic mining. The change has been more to do with the technology that's available to look for the drill targets, because without that technology, you're basically poking around in the dark. That can be very expensive, very wasteful. So the limitation has been the actual remote sensing technology and then the interpretation of the data from that. If you think about the actual the quality of also the ability to mine at depth, well, Norilsk is currently down to about 1,500 meters, and there are other mines around the world. I think I'm right in saying that a major company can sink a mine shaft down to about 2 to 2.5 kilometers before they need to step out to sink a second mine shaft. So even though we're down at 1,000 meters at this point, I mean, obviously we're a bit into the unknown, so we need to see how things develop. But just because we have gone that bit deeper, that doesn't put us necessarily out of economic range.
Yeah, look, I'm a realist here. Like I quoted something Mike Mole said years ago, it's going to take 16, not 6 holes to crack the Kalahari. Talking about the Proterozoic, I'm not a geologist here, so I'm just going to chuck a few questions out, which may be stupid or not.
How far away?
What sort of depth and what sort of area does that geology cover?
The Proterozoic?
Yeah, what sort of variations? I know you can't give me exact figures here. We're just talking rough ideas.
So if you've seen the airborne maps of the airborne magnetics that we've put out, pretty much all of that is Proterozoic, because the Proterozoic was a much older system and much more widespread. So the magnetic anomaly that you see of the KSZ, that is all Proterozoic. On top of that is, because the Proterozoic is magnetic, because we expect there could well be ore bodies down there and sort of metallic elements. On top of that is the Karoo. And part of our challenge has been, with the remote sensing technology we've used, it's been to distinguish between the Karoo gabbros, the Karoo age gabbros, and the Proterozoic age gabbros. And in terms of the work that Hillary and some of the other guys have been working with us that they've done, it looks like we do have methods that have enabled us successfully to isolate the Karoo from the Proterozoic. So it's the Karoo age gabbros are sort of within that overall Proterozoic structure. So, and these maps are on our website and on our Twitter feed. I mean, I could happily put some out sort of after this if that would help.
Well, I spend every day looking at them. I just forget what's on most of them after a while. It's just too much information, and sometimes it can be a bit of an information overload for people who aren't, too clued up in the geology of the area.
Welcome to my world. Yeah.
So I know we talk about Mike Moles, and I know he wants to retire out of this. So do I. So are we going to get to? He's 71. How long is this going to take? It's. I suppose it's. How much time is it going to take to find if this Proterozoic is going to be worth anything?
Let's see what these assay tests tell us. I mean, look, we've hit very interesting rocks. Whether or not this turns out to be a technical discovery or an economic discovery, we simply don't know until we've actually got the assay testing. One of the interesting things that I've learned over recent weeks is that platinum group elements tend not to be visible to the naked eye. Tend not to be, just to emphasise that. So we need to go and do the full sweep analysis on all of these to see what's actually there. But I mean, look, who knows what's going to happen next in target area B? So to answer your question, I mean, look, I'm keen to get on with this. I've put quite a lot of money personally into Kavango. I've been in pretty much all of the financings, and I was an original IPO investor as well. So I've got up to quite a position myself. But we've also got to, we've got to do it in the right way as well. So in these holes is a technical engineering challenge, and having our guys out in the field, we have to make sure everything is done safely. But look, this is not a company, and I'm not the sort of who's going to sort of rest on my hands and sort of happily take fees. We're getting a move on with this, and we are as quickly as we can.
Yeah, I know. It's not an easy question to ask. I'm just trying to gauge. Well, I suppose it's not an easy gauge.
It's a question. I understand.
Can I ask, Falconbridge? How deep did they go? And is there any cores you can refer back to that might relate to where we are as well now?
So the company that's actually more interesting is FanCamp, which I don't know if you might be confusing FanCamp Falconbridge. So FanCamp drilled that GRS1 hole into the Great Red Spot in the mid-1990s. That's the one that went down to about 930 meters. Yeah. That's the one that's more relevant to us. Now, unfortunately, we haven't been able to locate the core samples from that hole. They seem to have disappeared for whatever reason, which is a bit of a surprise because the records in Botswana are meticulous. But we have seen the drill logs, and one of the things I'm really going to be very delighted for us to talk about is that I managed to track down the senior geophysicist from FanCamp, and his name is Jeremy Brett, and he's been working with us now for 6 months. And Jeremy's actually going to be on this video with me tomorrow, talking about some of his past experience, what he was looking at 20 or so years ago, and what he's looking at today. So that will hopefully be very interesting for everybody.
One more question.
Sure.
Obviously, it's a massive license. It's a massive undertaking with this. And I think it was a good idea to go up towards the shallower end of it. If you find something up there, obviously, is the plan to sell it off piecemeal and maintain the rest of the license to continue exploration?
It's a really good question. Honest answer is, at the moment, we don't know. I mean, I think we would probably have to have a spectacular offer for us to give up the whole region. I mean, it really would have to be something incredible, because there are just so many unknowns at this stage. It's still a little premature for us to be sort of thinking in too much detail about that. There's a lot more work that we need to do, both on this current campaign and in terms of the assay testing and whole rock geochemistry. But I mean, again, I think all options are open to us.
Well, I guess it comes down to the model, doesn't it? It comes down to what is proven in the coming months, whether the model works, and if it actually will work in the rest of the license. Is that not correct? That's
a really, really good point, and I'm very glad you said that, because I think that's something that there are some people out there who haven't understood. For us, this proof of concept is all about proving. Absolutely correct, and there are obviously some bits that haven't worked. There's some bits we're going to need to go back to the drawing board in terms of the modelling, but then there are other bits that have, and that's just also the nature of these things. But yeah, absolutely, at the heart of our strategy is refining our exploration model so that it can be repeated across the entire KSZ. And I was asked the question earlier about, are we going to go and explore these other kills? Are they still targets? Well, yes, they are still targets, and yes, we are going to explore them, but we'll do that once we're a bit better informed about what we've actually uncovered at this stage.
Yeah, I just guess that there's massive value for shareholders if you sell off a potential mine, and then just take that money and continue on through the rest of the license.
So our business model, and we're very clear about this, our business model is to remain an exploration company.
Yeah.
I've seen too many of these businesses as an investor. It's just become a vanity project for the directors and an excuse for them to take loads of fees, and invariably they end up failing. We are not in the mine development business. We're in the minerals exploration business, and the two are very, very separate.
Yeah, but it's a massive license. It's a massive license, Ben. There could be, I'd hate for it to be sold off without finding, understanding the true potential. Maybe that's what I'm kind of.
I agree with you, Michael. I mean, look, we've got the strategic hold over the whole region, and if we end up with a proprietary method that works, I've got to say our partnership with Spectral Geophysics, that was one of the first deals that I secured in the company, and it's worked like a dream so far. So I feel like all the pieces are coming into place. Look, there'll be bumps along the way as well. That's inevitable. But look, we're certainly not going to give this up too early.
Great. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Okay, that's an hour. So go on, far away. More questions, far away.
Ben, could I jump in one more time?
Sure.
Back to my question about the U.S. listing strategy, just putting on my analyst hat for just a second. And by all means, if I shouldn't be asking this question, just sort of cough or make a noise, and I'll mute my mic.
Don't worry, I'll tell you. Don't worry. Have no fear there. Come on, far away.
Putting on my analyst hat for a second, reading in between the tea leaves in regards to what you said earlier, it sounds like you want to control steady any sort of like hypergrowth that might be achieved if you maybe uplist or list in the U.S. too prematurely. It sounds like. Am I getting that right? Like there will be there is a plan for when that time comes, even though right now I know what kind of opportunity this is, but
why don't I talk in general terms about my experience? So as I mentioned earlier, I've had now 2 very intense years of these types of campaigns, less so over the last 6 months, because the team I put together have been doing all of the work. So I've learned a lot about the US market, and I've also just learned a lot about how markets work in general. And I think as a general comment, timing is absolutely everything. I'm also very confident in the Kavango story, the changes that we're making to the business, how well run a company we are, the potential that's out there in front of us. So, I mean, look, we will obviously do our best to time everything we ever do correctly. We might get it right, hopefully most of the time. There'll be sometimes we won't. But in terms of sort of entering into the US, I think if we were to consider doing that, which I have to say is an if, but if we were to do that, then yeah, I mean, we would look to do it at the appropriate time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, so that's now just over now. I'm happy to answer any further questions if if anybody has any. I think there's a button on the left-hand side of the app screen if you want to make a request, and I will then see that. I'll just give it a couple of seconds. There are no further requests. Does anyone else on the panel have any further questions before we sign off? No? All right. Okay, well, look, thank you all very much for giving up an hour of your time on a Sunday. I've quite enjoyed doing this, actually. I think we might well do one of these after an RNS one day. This facility looks really excellent, and it's obviously a great way for us to engage directly with our shareholders and interested parties. So look, thank you very much to all of you for your time this evening, and I hope you have enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you very much.